Hey guys, it's me, Halloween Dan.
I'm ScareDads.
And this is part 2 of our awesome podcast talking about the amazing things at Transworld. Don't forget, go and check out part 1, which is up on ScareDads channel right now. It's really, really good. But this is part 2, where we will be talking about even more amazing stuff coming out of Transworld. Because let's face it, there's so much to talk about. So let's get into this.
All right, so let's move over to the dark area. And there's really, for me, there's two different people to talk about. We've got Poison Props and Scare Factory.
Yes.
Where do we want to go first?
Well, probably address the poison situation, I think.
Full disclosure, we kind of chatted about this right before we started recording.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the ones that we really liked, and then we'll kind of talk about what we mentioned before.
Sounds good.
The first one I liked was one that you kind of didn't see coming, and it was this pumpkin guy that was laying kind of flat on the ground, and then he would jump up and come at you.
Yep.
And I thought it was cool because I could see that as something I would use in a haunt. It's not the super gory stuff that they do sometimes. I thought it was a cool prop, and I thought it hit itself really well, so it was a good scare. It had, the same kind of motion after that of kind of lunging at you, but it was kind of unique in the way that it really felt like it was hiding and then came up at you. So that one I thought was really cool, and I thought the sculpting looked pretty good.
Yeah, I concur. I thought that was pretty cool too, to be fair. Of all of their stuff, there was that, and I loved the Dracula. It wasn't Dracula. It was a vampire prop. I can't remember the name, but he kind of shot up into the air about sort of 10 feet up.
It became really tall.
So it was like it was almost like a Mr. Dark kind of prop where he shot up into the air.
Yep.
And then obviously, but he's a vampire and he's flailing about, and it was a cool looking vampire. The face mold on it was really quite impressive. It was like an ancient vampire kind of look. So that was impressive to me. I did enjoy that one, I have to say.
Yeah, that was cool. And there was one more that I really liked. Kind of the same theme as the other one. It was another pumpkin guy. He just kind of came forward and did stuff, but the movements seemed more deliberate. And this is going to get into what we're going to talk about next. But
a bit more in control of its movement.
Yeah. So I thought that was another really cool one. And again, that kind of leans more towards, because I like more traditional Halloween, so the pumpkin guys are going to be more my thing than the guy hanging with hooks in his face. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and there was probably one other. I'm pretty sure it was a poison prop, and it was a Reaper. So again, it's my ballpark sort of thing. I love a Reaper, and it was kind of high up. They'd elevated it quite high up, and then it had these big wings that expanded out.
Yep.
And that was cool. That was pretty cool. I did enjoy that prop. Again, it's got that kind of jolting movement, but again, I suppose you can kind of get away with that because he's got these wings, and you can imagine him maybe like trying to take off into the night or something. It kind of reminded me of, and if you've watched Harry Potter, I don't know, spoiler alert, in the Deathly Hallows, there's the death has these wings and flies off. There's like an animation section in the film. That it gave me those sort of vibes. I thought that was quite cool.
So with that same prop, I thought this was a good way to get into my, I don't know if I should say issue with poison. My question that I wanted to put towards you is, are poison props good in the sense that have they kind of gotten stale with what they're doing? Because I think the Reaper coming up with the wings is cool. But then the Reaper's doing the same thing that all their props do, and it's just kind of flailing its arms around. And a Reaper that big to me should be this big, majestic, scary thing. And I don't think this fits. I think it works for some of the stuff. I think the torture people, the flailing makes sense. And I think for the zombies, it kind of works. I mean, they kind of look like zombies on cocaine having seizures, but it's
hey, that's a movie.
Right? But at least it kind of fits the character for me. But every prop that they do screams and does this, and I don't know, like I kind of feel like they found something that sells, right? Because in a haunt it's scary, but when you see them all together, it all becomes kind of samey to me. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So thanks for making me unpopular here with this question. Because I have briefly spoken about this in another video I've recorded. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Poison, I have to say. The props I've mentioned are the ones that stood out to me because they were at least this much what I'm interested in. But they're just the same prop. It's this. Right, I'm going to say clowns again, but only for a reason of this is kind of what annoys me with clown props is that they're the same thing regurgitated out every year. They look the same. They do the same similar things. They're just the same thing. And there's no imagination to them in that sense. And that's kind of how I feel about Poison. I love what they do in a technical way. Their props are amazing. What they're doing is amazing. And they're
scary,
definitely scary. There's no denying that. And like you say, if you had that in a haunt of some description, flailing out of some bushes or, whatever, really scary, terrifying, right? Which is what a lot of people are looking for in their Halloween haunts. Of course they are. But they're all doing the same thing. Every single prop they make is doing the exact same thing. There's no variation. It's like you've just said, yes, zombies, that kind of makes sense. If someone's having their guts ripped out, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But like I mentioned, the vampire, I'm not sure this makes sense with a vampire because vampires are supposed to be kind of cool and calculated, not having a fit up 10 feet in the air. And the Reaper, again, I like the look of them, but do they need to be doing this? And they just look out of control, like they're having a seizure, which I get is a kind of a scary thing, but not if they're all just doing the exact same thing. And when you've got them all clustered there together, I think that's just what stands out, is that they're all just doing the exact same thing. There's no subtlety.
Yeah. Do you get the sense too, like, because the motion is so crazy, they almost come off as cartoony sometimes.
Yeah, this is true. And I know, again, some people look for that in a haunt where it's both gory and weird, but funny. They find, some humor in that, and that's fine. But I just don't know. I don't get it. It doesn't necessarily. I think it's the same thing with me again, where I'm not a gory person as such. I don't really get that side of Halloween. It's fine if you are into it. I just don't personally gel with that bit. Like I say, in some things, zombies maybe, and obviously all those horror scenes where things are like being decapitated and stuff. Yeah, that makes a bit of sense. But for certain props, it's just like, okay, that worked with this guy having his entrails ripped out, but we'll also put it into this Reaper, and it's not really for me.
For me, I love the artistry of the BeastCraft and Distortions, and I think because they're more focused on the flailing, while some of the stuff looks good, it does have sometimes that cartoony look. It doesn't, the proportions don't look right, or it doesn't quite really look human,
I think when you get up close to the props and they're in the broad daylight, they don't measure up. But that's why Distortions and the likes are amazing out on the main floor, because they're in broad, daylight. I want to say daylight, but lit up from every angle, and they still look amazing. They still look like amazing pieces of art.
If you like Poison, I totally get it, and I think that there's totally a place in the haunt industry.
100%.
I would like to see them work with some more subtle movements and maybe some more artistry, but maybe that's just, they found their thing and that's what they want to stick with.
Yeah. And they've got a big fan base. There's a lot of people who love Poison. I get asked all the time, when are you going to review some Poison props? Why aren't you reviewing these Poison props? And it's a personal thing. It's not that they're not good, and it's not that they don't have a place in the market, and that obviously they do what they do really, really well.
And honestly, they might have the biggest place in the market as far as professional haunts. Honestly,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. I'm sure.
Quick movement.
Which is what everyone who does these big walk-through haunts and stuff, that's what they want. They want these quick, rapid, frightening movements, which 100% appreciate. It's just, I think it's a bit it's like a bit overdone. Like they almost don't need to show anything new because everyone kind of knows what they're getting. It's this thing that flails about and moves a bit, you know, and that's kind of sad in a way. You want them to be kind of breaking down barriers and building new things that get people talking, not, oh, it's another zombie that flails.
Right. And that's what I would, if, not that they'll ever watch this, but if someone did, I would challenge them.
I hope they don't.
with more subtle movement, and see if you can make something super creepy like that. You know, because they got talented people there. I'm sure they could do it.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. I couldn't build anything like that. Of course not. And that's not what this is. It's not me saying, oh, what they do is terrible. No, it's just a bit like you've clearly got the ability. Maybe like try and refocus it a little bit. You've done this. Maybe now do something else, you know?
Yes.
And then I'll review your props. Not that you care if I do or I don't, but you know.
See, they're going to go into a meeting. They're like, guys, what can we do to get Halloween Dead to review our props?
Yeah. These two middle-aged men just threw us completely under the bus.
How can ScareDads say that?
How can they say this about us? Now we need to make some. They'll probably, as a get back, they'll turn us into zombies, thrashing about even more violently.
Right?
That'd be cool, though. That would be pretty cool.
I would buy that.
I'd buy that, yeah. The Halloween Dan Thrasher.
Let's move on to the other big dark area, and that's Scare Factory.
Scare Factory, yeah.
They're another interesting one where I think they've got some really cool stuff. What works for them is the massive scale.
Yes.
And the designs are pretty creative. The one that was actually my personal favorite, which is kind of weird because I didn't think it would be, I really like the pumpkin witches.
Yeah.
I thought 100%. That was actually the way the mouse moved. It felt like they were actually kind of like alive and moving. I don't really know how I'd use it. But I could. I like
you
pumpkins.
definitely could. Yeah, that would definitely work with you.
I wish I could hear what they were saying. But yeah, what were your thoughts?
My thoughts on Scare Factory, again, it's sort of the same vibe as BeastCraft, but not quite the same. I've kind of never properly thought about them as such. Liked what they've done in past years, but never really enough to properly talk about. This year, I actually really liked a lot of their stuff. I loved those pumpkin witches. Thought they were so cool. And you're right, the movement of the mouth and the way they were animated, they almost looked alive. They didn't look like animated props as such. I think my favorite though was, which is a weird one. I don't know why it's my favorite, but I just was drawn to it. It was the 20-foot, so that's great, amazing. It was I think it was called the 20-foot like hover reaper or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know what it was about it. It's just physically massive. So 20-foot, amazing, right? Then it's a reaper, yes, like Phantom Reaper guy, yes, big tick. But there was something about just the way they'd animated it. So it was swooping around and moving in this kind of weird, for something of its size, this sort of weird ethereal way it was moving around with these big, almost like headlamp.
It was on like the big eyes. Crane arm.
Yeah, like a crane arm.
Right? That was...
Yeah, super impressive. I mean, just on an engineering level, amazing. Like to be able to hoist something of that size up and then move it about the way they did.
The Reaper itself was 20 feet and it was up? Is that?
I think that it was held 20 feet up in the air.
Okay. Right.
I think.
But then that'd be a tall building. But...
Yeah. But it was, so the crane was probably 20 feet. And
the Reaper was a good size.
The Reaper was built on a 20-foot scale, but obviously I don't think it quite stood 20 foot. They did have some 20-foot props that actually did stand 20 foot. I think there was just like a big phantom guy. I didn't really see what he did actually, but that one swooping around like it was and interacting with people, and it, 1 minute it's really close to you, the next minute it's backed away. I thought that was really, really clever. I really liked that.
And it was talking, right? He was saying stuff.
Again, it was hard to hear exactly what he was saying, but that's what he was doing. He was kind of talking, the usual sort of Reaper stuff. I am the death and all that stuff. But I was impressed by it both technically, and I thought it still retained a huge amount of detail. I thought they've still put so much detail into this enormous thing that's swooping about all over the place. I really liked that.
And that's a contrast to me to the Poison one, because I kind of expect my Reaper to kind of fly in this more, I don't know if elegant's the right word, but
you're right.
This more commanding presence, like here I am, as opposed to the flailing. Even though I did love the wings on the other one, but something about the way the Scare Factory one just kind of swooped in down. And was, here's my presence,
Exactly.
It was cool. It was a cool prop.
Yeah. Another one, I think this isn't new for this year. I think it's at least last year, if not the year before, but I love it, is their witch. Did you see their witch? That was on like the same sort of thing. So on a crane, and she's swooping around and cackling and laughing and saying witch phrases. That, I thought that's so effective. I really, really love that. I mean, she's clearly on a crane, and it would be really hard to disguise that.
Right.
But still, the witch herself was an impressive looking witch. And that's, for me, that kind of thing of a witch swooping about is the epitome of Halloween. That would be something I'd love to try and achieve in my own home, So I've watched many a video of people who've got up on their roofs and had witches going round in circles above the house. Love that stuff. I think that's great.
Cool. Awesome. Another one of theirs I liked. I like pumpkin props this year for some reason.
Yes.
They had this weird pumpkin mantis thing. And it was just weird enough, but big enough that I liked it. Again, I don't know how I'd use it.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't use it because I can't afford it. But but if I could have it, I just put it in a pumpkin patch and this big thing comes up. And
amazing.
It was just cool looking. I think they handle scale better than anyone else.
I think you're right.
Creating these massive props. They had another guy and I think I've seen him something like this before, where it's like there's a big pumpkin head, but then there's like all these other pumpkins on it, and they're all kind of talking, and just that scale of like there's this big monstrosity in the pumpkin patch that just came to life, and it's cool. Like I think the stuff they do on that scale is just amazing, and
100%. Yeah, exactly. That big mantis guy, I have no idea how anyone would use him apart from put him in a pumpkin patch and wait for people to be terrified.
Right.
But again, it's that combination of not only is it massive, it's like 15 foot, and not only is it impressive in an engineering kind of a way, but the detail is great. It's still got great movement, the movement of the mouth, the lighting. It's got all these other little pumpkins all over it and down at the bottom of it that are lit. And the details on it are all there. It's not like they've just, put a crap pumpkin on the top of a big crane. It's detailed and well thought through. You're right. I think there's no one that does scale quite like they do. I think it is insane. Yeah. Another thing I loved as well, really simple, but I loved it, was they had these like just arms. There was like skeleton ones and slightly zombified ones, and they were just like holding like either a skull or a pumpkin like that. And I think one of them had possibly one of them zombie heads on one of them as well, and had a bit of animation. But just really simplistic, looked so cool. So they got a bit of both. They've got the big, all singing, all dancing props, and then they've got these slightly smaller but well detailed props that would just look great in pretty much any haunt. I think. I don't think it matters what you've got. I think they'd look great anywhere.
Overall, I think very cool.
But if you had to rate it, what you've seen at Transworld, what would you be? Where's your money? Where's your favourite? You've got your money in your hand. You've got all $40,000. Where's that money going?
For the big, and I'm looking at the big expensive props. If it was something like I was actually buying, it would be the Distortions Legend series, because that's the only thing I could afford.
Of course.
But out of these, I probably would invest in either one of the BeastCraft Reapers, either the Decomposer or the other big one, because I just love the design.
Yeah.
Or possibly a Frankenstein's experiment, because that is still just an awesome prop, and it's got great movement. And so if I was, if I had $3,000 or $4,000 to spend, and I went in, that's where my money would be, between
Good answer.
$5,000 or $6,000, and maybe I do still love Scarewolf as a prop. Distortions and BeastCraft are my favorite companies. Yep. If I owned a haunted house and I had, like you said, $50,000, well, then I'd probably have a scare factory. I'd probably have the pumpkin jumping up from Poison. Yeah. I'd have something from everyone, because they all have things that are relevant to what you would need in a haunt.
Of course. Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think you've pretty much covered it for me. I think my money still on the Distortions Frankenstein monster. Everything about that guy, I love it. I love the movement. I love the extra little bit of movement at the end. The board he's on with all the dials flashing away. I think it helps that I am trying to go down that sort of classic Universal monster route a little bit, so that it makes sense to my haunt a little bit. But to be honest with you, even not making sense to my haunt, I would love that prop. I think it's so good. That would be coming home with me if I had the money.
I kind of forgot Banshee.
Banshee
might. Okay, so let me rethink. I would probably buy Banshee over one of the BeastCraft ones.
Okay.
Because for about the same price, you probably get more of a scare out of her.
True.
I don't know. I mean, I would love to have a few props from
all
each.
of them.
And then if we're not talking, if this was...
This is imaginary. This is, you've got unlimited cash.
And if our podcast was
you're just
middle-aged
walking in doing this.
Right. But if our podcast was middle-aged men talking about really cool stuff, I still love those raptors too. Again, they're not Halloween to me.
Still.
I would just love to have it hidden in the backyard and just be like, hey kids, let's go for a walk in the woods.
Happy Easter, kids.
Right? Just hear
Has the Easter Bunny been, kids? Oh!
But I think the most important thing to me is just, you come out of Transworld and you're just like, wow, like there are some just amazing artists out there with great vision, this creativity that's, it's nice to see that alive within the haunt industry.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that there's companies out there, still kind of pushing it and doing weird things like a Dr. Quantum, that's really not for everybody, but cool. It's cool to make just because you can make it,
Exactly.
And that's awesome. And some of the mask stuff that's there is amazing.
Insane. You could talk. I could literally talk about Transworld for about a week, because there's just so much. From people just doing literally just like pieces of artwork for people's homes, to the masks, to I've got a bit of a weird thing about the stuffed animals. Like I don't know whether my wife would never let me bring a stuffed animal into our house. But I think there's something, I don't know, like all those weird curiosities, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So we focus on the big props and the animatronics, but the truth is what makes that what it is the mixture of all that stuff come together. It's just Halloween bottled, isn't it? That Transworld. It's just every element of it that's amazing. I love that. I can't remember what it's called. It was like the skeleton store or something like that. I can't remember what it was now, but it was basically like everything was made out of skeletons. There was lights made out of skulls and stuff, and there was like a lamp with and like all kinds of.
I don't even know if I saw that.
Oh, you should go and have a look. It was so cool. It was just dead simple, and I think pretty much anyone could think of it, to be honest.
Right.
But it's not just thinking about it. They've gone and done it, and it's amazing. It looked really, really good, and it's things like that I love about Transworld, and I might not have the budget, and I might never ever get to go, but still,
we're going to get you there. One of these years, we're going to get you there.
1 year, maybe, 2030, it might happen.
You go, right?
Yeah, so that pretty much covers everything, I think. I hope you enjoyed this second half. Go and check the first half out on ScareDads channel, which, there's so much we could talk about Transworld, but we've got to end it somewhere. So if you could like, subscribe, fill that comment section. Yeah, the poisoned guys, you hate away. We'll we can take it on the chin. That's what middle-aged guys do. We roll with the punches. We're fine with it.
Life's beating us up enough by now. We can take it.
We can take it. We can take it. Just beat us up a bit more. And we hope you enjoyed the video today, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Keep it spooky. Bye.
Bye.